Chapter 4. What to think. In order to break all mental connection with disease, you must form a mental connection with health. This process must be positive, not negative. A process of assumption, not rejection. Your task is to receive or appropriate health rather than to reject or deny disease. The mind does not know negation. What you put your attention on, it will magnify and reproduce. Right now, try to not think of a white elephant. Denying disease accomplishes next to nothing. It does little good to cast out the devil and leave the house empty, for he will soon return with others worse than himself. When you enter into a full and constant mental relationship with health, you will naturally and automatically cease all relationship with disease. Therefore, the first step in the science of being well is to enter into a complete thought connection with health. The best way to do this is to create a mental image or picture of yourself as being perfectly well. Imagine a strong, whole, and healthy body, and spend enough time contemplating this image for it to become your habitual thought of yourself. This is not as easy as it sounds. It requires spending a good amount of time in meditation, and not everyone has a well-developed imagination that can form a clear mental picture of themselves in a perfect or idealized body. It is much easier, as explained in the Science of Getting Rich, to form a mental image of the things one wants to have, because we have seen these things, or their counterparts, and know how they look. We can picture them very easily from memory. But we have never seen ourselves in a perfect body, and so a clear mental image is hard to form. However, it is not necessary or essential to have a perfectly clear picture of yourself as you wish to be. What is essential is to form a conception of health and to relate yourself to that conception. This conception of health is not a mental picture of a particular object or form. It's an understanding of health, and it carries with it the idea of perfect functioning in every part and organ of your being. You may try to imagine yourself with a perfect physique. This helps, and you must think of yourself as doing everything in the manner of a perfectly strong and healthy person. You can picture yourself walking down the street with a straight posture and a lively, vigorous stride. You can imagine yourself doing your day's work easily, with surplus energy, never tired, never weak. You can imagine how everything would be done by someone full of health and power, and then place yourself at the center of that picture, doing things in exactly the same way. Never think of the ways in which weak or sickly people do things. Always think of the way strong people do things. Spend your leisure time in thinking about the strong way until you have a good conception of it, and always think of yourself in connection with the strong way of doing things. This is what I mean by having a conception of health. In order to establish perfect functioning in every part of the body, you do not need to study anatomy or physiology in order to form mental pictures of each organ and treat it separately. You do not need to address your liver, your kidneys, your stomach, or your heart one by one. There is one principle of health in man, and it controls all the involuntary functions of life. The thought of perfect health, impressed upon this one principle, reaches every organ and every part. Your liver is not governed by a special liver principle, nor is your stomach governed by a digestive principle, and so on. The principle of health is one. The less you go into the detailed study of physiology, the better for you. Our knowledge of this science is very imperfect. Imperfect thinking causes imperfect functioning, and that is disease. Consider for a moment how many times science declared a fact only to have it disproven less than half a century later. Not long ago, physiology insisted that 10 days was the longest a human could live without food. It was believed that only in rare cases could a person survive longer. So the impression became universally spread that you would die if you were deprived of food in 5 to 10 days. As a result, many people who were shipwrecked, trapped, or struck by famine did die within this period. But the 40-day fasting of Dr. Tanner, the writings of Dr. Dewey and others on fasting, and the experiences of many people who have fasted for 40 to 60 days have shown that humans can go without food far longer than was supposed. Any reasonably educated person can fast from 20 to 40 days with little loss of weight and often no loss of strength at all. Those who starved to death within 10 days did so because they believed death was inevitable. A faulty physiology had given them a wrong idea about themselves. When someone is deprived of food, they will die in 10 to 50 days according to what they have been taught, or, in other words, according to the way they think about it. So you can see that wrong physiology can cause very mischievous results. No science of being well can be based on current physiology. Its knowledge is not exact enough. Despite all its claims, very little is truly known about the inner workings of the body. We do not know precisely how food is digested. We do not know exactly what part food plays, if any, in generating energy. We do not know with certainty what the liver, spleen, or pancreas really do, or how their secretions work in assimilation. On these and most other points, we only theorize. We do not truly know. When a person studies physiology, they enter a world of theories and disputes. They meet conflicting opinions and will inevitably form mistaken ideas about themselves. These mistaken ideas lead to wrong thoughts, and wrong thoughts lead to disordered functioning and disease. Even perfect knowledge of physiology could do no more than help a person think only thoughts of perfect health and act in perfectly healthy ways. And, as we will show, this can be done without studying physiology at all. This, for the most part, is true of all hygiene. There are a few basic principles you should know, and these will be explained in later chapters, but beyond these, you should set physiology and hygiene aside. They tend to fill the mind with thoughts of imperfect conditions, and these thoughts produce imperfect conditions in your own body. You cannot study any science which recognizes disease if you are to think nothing but health. Drop all investigation of your present condition, its causes or possible results, and set yourself to the work. Devote yourself to forming a conception of health. Never affirm or repeat about your health what you do not wish to be true. Spend no more time than necessary on measuring your results and adjusting your approach. Do not dwell on your ailments, nor examine your symptoms. Never allow yourself to be convinced that you are not complete master of yourself. Stoutly affirm your superiority over bodily ills, and do not acknowledge yourself the slave of any inferior power. Think about health, and about what health makes possible, the work you could do, the pleasures you could enjoy, the fuller life you could live in perfect health. Let this conception guide you in thinking about yourself. Refuse to entertain, even for a moment, any thought about yourself that is not in harmony with it. Whenever an idea of disease or imperfect functioning enters your mind, cast it out at once by calling up a thought that matches the conception of health. At all times, think of yourself as realizing this conception, as a strong and perfectly healthy person, and do not allow a contrary thought to remain. Know that as you think of yourself in unity with this conception, the original substance which permeates and fills the tissues of your body is taking form according to your thought, and know that this intelligent substance or mind stuff will cause function to be performed in such a way that your body will be rebuilt with perfectly healthy cells. The intelligent substance from which all things are made permeates and penetrates all things, and so it is in and through your body. It moves according to its thoughts, and so if you hold only the thoughts of perfectly healthy function, it will cause the movements of perfectly healthy function within you. Hold with persistence to the thought of perfect health in relation to yourself. Do not permit yourself to think in any other way. Hold this thought with perfect faith that it is fact, that it is truth. It is truth as far as your mental body is concerned. You have a mental body and a physical body. The mental body takes form just as you think of yourself, and any thought which you hold continuously is made visible by the transformation of the physical body into its image. Planting the thought of perfect functioning in the mental body will, in time, produce perfect functioning in the physical body. The transformation of the physical body into the image of the ideal held by the mind body is not accomplished instantaneously. We cannot transfigure our physical bodies at will as Jesus did. In the creation and recreation of forms, substance moves along the fixed lines of growth it has established, and the impression upon it of the health thought causes the healthy body to be built cell by cell. Holding only thoughts of perfect health will eventually cause perfect functioning, and perfect functioning will in due time produce a perfectly healthy body. It may be helpful to summarize this chapter. Your physical body is permeated and fitted with an intelligent substance, which forms a body of mind stuff. This mind stuff controls the functioning of your physical body. A thought of disease or of imperfect function impressed upon the mind stuff causes disease or imperfect functioning in the physical body. If you are diseased, it is because wrong thoughts have made impressions on this mind stuff. These may have been either your own thoughts or those of your parents. We begin life with many subconscious impressions, both right and wrong. But the natural tendency of all mind is toward health, and if no thoughts are held in the conscious mind, save those of health, all internal functioning will come to be performed in a perfectly healthy manner. The power of nature within you is sufficient to overcome all hereditary impressions. And if you will learn to control your thoughts so that you shall think only thoughts of health, and if you will perform the voluntary functions of life in a perfectly healthy way, you can certainly be well.